My Weird School, Book Number 16, Miss Coco is Loco. Written by Dan Gutman. Pictures by Jim Pellot. Chapter 9, Stalling for Time. That night I used my secret flashcard system to write 10 poems. I brought them with me to school the next morning. "Did everybody write a poem last night?" asked Miss Daisy as she went around the room collecting our homework. "My dog ate my poem," said Neil the nude kid. That was a total lie. Neil doesn't even have a dog. Miss Daisy looked mad. It was the second day in a row that Neil didn't turn in a poem. He looked like he might cry or something, so Miss Daisy said he could go get a drink of water. I waited a minute. Then I asked Miss Daisy if I could go to the bathroom. She said okay. Neil wasn't at the water fountain in the hall. I went in the boys' bathroom and saw legs in one of the stalls. It sounded like the kid was crying. I went and sat in the stall next door. "Psst! Hey, Neil, is that you?" "Yeah. You need a poem?" I asked. "You got an extra one?" "Shh! Quiet!" I whispered. "Sure I have an extra one. You want to buy it?" "How much?" Neil asked. "Your lunch money will cover it," I said. "Is it a good poem?" "Only the best for you, Neil." "Let me see it," Neil whispered. I opened the door a crack and looked out to make sure nobody else was in the bathroom. Then I took a poem out of my pocket and slipped it under the stall to Neil. "Hey," he said after reading it. "This poem doesn't rhyme." "Poems don't have to rhyme, dumbhead," I whispered. "You want it or not? I don't have all day." "I'll take it," he said, handing me a bunch of coins. "But now I won't be able to buy any lunch." "Lunch is way overrated," I said. "Thanks, AJ," Neil whispered. "You saved my life." "Don't mention it," I told him. "There's plenty more where this came from. Just don't tell any girls where you got the poem." "I won't," Neil said. "You won't tell Miss Daisy you sold it to me, will you?" "My lips are sealed," I told him. "But not with glue or anything. That would be weird." Chapter 10, You Snooze, You Lose. Every day the tote board in front of the school had a new number on it. 650, 700, 750. We were getting close to 1,000 poems. Word must have been getting out about me. In the next week I sold poems to Ryan and Michael and some of the other boys in my class. During recess, some boys from the other classes came over to buy poems from me too. I was raking in the dough. Writing poems was a great way to make money. I almost didn't want National Poetry Month to end. Meanwhile, Andrea was speed reading her way through her encyclopedia. Every day she would annoy me with some dumb new fact she learned about tigers and unicorns and walruses. "Soon I'll be finished with my encyclopedia," she told me on the way to Miss Coco's room. "And then I'll be the smartest person in the world." I hate her. After we got to the G&T room, Miss Coco came running in. "Sorry I'm late," she said. "I had to put on my face." "Where was it before you put it on?" I asked. Miss Coco laughed and told us that today's assignment was to write a rhyming poem about animals. "I love animals," Andrea said. "This will be easy." I thought for a while, tapping my pencil on my desk. I peeked at Andrea's paper. She was writing some lame poem about a cat. It was a total rip-off of The Cat in the Hat. Suddenly, I got an idea. I started writing a poem called Animals Are Weird. The words just flowed out of my brain. Bats will sleep upside down in trees, and elephants are the only creatures that have 4 knees. Clams start out as boys and become girls later, but crocodiles don't become alligators. For dinner and aardvark, we'll eat a termite, And cats can see better than humans at night. A hummingbird is the smallest bird and the only one that can fly backward. Did you know a camel has 3 eyelids and mosquitoes don't prefer to bite kids? A beaver can hold its breath for 5 minutes, and mackerels lay eggs almost without limits. You can hear a lion roar 5 miles away. Most ants are dead by their 60th day. A poor little owl can't move its eye, and if it eats chocolate, a parrot will die. Did you know a walrus can get sunburned? These are a few of the things that I learned. You won't see a dog or a cat with a beard, but animals, if you ask me, are weird. Miss Coco read my poem, and she started laughing and crying at the same time and saying what a genius I was. Then she said she had to go show my poem to Mr. Klutz right away, and ran out of the room. Well, Andrea's face went all red like a fire engine. "That's not fair," she yelled. "You stole all the facts I worked so hard to learn from my encyclopedia. I could have written that poem." "So why didn't you?" I asked. "You snooze, you lose." "Hey, that rhymes." "I'm way more gifted and talented than you, Arlo," Andrea complained. "I read the whole encyclopedia. You hate to read. You hate poetry. You hate everything to do with learning. But Miss Coco still likes you better than me. It's not fair." Ha ha ha. It was the greatest day of my life. Chapter 11. King of the School. I was feeling great when I walked into the school store the next morning. I was bopping along with the iPod I bought on eBay with all the money I earned selling poems. It was the last day of April. I sold so many poems that I had more money than I could spend. "Pencils for everyone," I announced. "I'm buying." Most of the kids in my class were in the store. I showed the guys my iPod. "That's cool," said Neil the nude kid. "I'm glad you like it," I said. "After all, you paid for it." "Where did you get that, Arlo?" asked Andrea. "You always say you don't have any money." "None of your beeswax," I told her. The bell rang, and it was time to go to class. The girls went running off, and all the boys gathered around me. "I need one more poem, AJ," Michael said. "Me too," said Ryan. "One at a time, guys," I said as I pulled some poems out of my notebook. "There are plenty to go around." I gave them all poems, and they gave me their lunch money. My pockets were so stuffed with coins that it was hard to walk. Man, I was going to miss National Poetry Month. "Well, we did it," Miss Daisy said as we collected our poems. "The students at elementary school wrote 1,000 poems. This afternoon we're going to have an assembly with a real live poet. Isn't that exciting?" "Yes," yelled all the girls. "No," yelled all the boys. All morning I wasn't thinking about the assembly or math or social studies. I was thinking about what I could buy next with the money I earned selling poems. Maybe I'd get a new skateboard or some cool posters for my room. It was hard to enjoy my lunch in the vomitorium that afternoon. Ryan and Michael and the other guys were staring at my food the whole time. I felt a little bad taking their lunch money, so I gave them some of my cookies. "Line up in single file," Miss Daisy said when we got back from lunch. We walked to the all-purpose room for the assembly. Andrea and her annoying friend sat in the row behind me. After the whole school had arrived, Mr. Klutz got up on the stage. "Wow, 1,000 poems," he said. "You know, Miss Coco tells me we have a very talented poet right here at elementary school. Will you please come up on stage, AJ?" Everybody turned and looked at me. Then they started clapping and cheering. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. I thought I was gonna die. "Get up there, dumbhead," said Ryan. Michael and Neil the nude kid pushed me out of my seat. I walked up onto the stage. Miss Coco came up there too. She looked at me with her goo-goo eyes and hugged me. Then she handed me a sheet of paper. It was my poem about weird animals. "Read it," she told me, "with feeling. You won't see a dog or a cat with a beard, but animals, if you ask me, are weird." When I finished, everybody gave me a standing ovation. "Animals Are Weird" will be the title of our poetry book, Miss Coco announced. "And in honor of AJ," Mr. Klutz said, "I have decided that tomorrow will be sit around and do nothing day." "Tomorrow is Saturday," I reminded him. "Exactly," said Mr. Klutz, "so you can sit around and do nothing." When I got back to my seat, I couldn't resist. I stuck my tongue out at Andrea. "I hate you," she said. "Hate isn't a very nice word," I told her. "You shouldn't say that, dumbhead." "Well, students," Mr. Klutz said, "National Poetry Month is over." "Boo!" yelled all the girls. "Yay!" yelled all the boys. I couldn't decide if I was happy or sad. I'd made a lot of money during National Poetry Month, but now at least I could go back to being a normal kid again. I promised that if you wrote 1,000 poems, I'd invite a real poet to visit our school, Mr. Klutz said. Well, I always keep my promises. "I'm so excited," Andrea whispered behind me. "I wonder who it will be." This was going to be the most boring assembly in the history of the world. We would have to sit and listen to some dumb poet for the next hour. I should have brought a pillow. The curtain behind Mr. Klutz opened. Everybody got quiet. You'll never in 1,100,000 years believe what happened next. I'm not going to tell you. Okay, I'll tell you. But you'll have to wait till the next chapter. So turn the page, dumbhead. Chapter 12. A Real Live Poet Who Isn't Dead. First, this weird purple smoke started pouring onto the stage. Next, the sound of drums started pounding out of the speakers. Then the lights went out and laser beams started shooting all over the place in different colors. The drums got louder, the lights got brighter. Then this guy ran onto the stage. He had on a baseball cap and he was wearing this long purple cape with sequins all over it. He had on sunglasses too, even though he was indoors. It was Mr. Hind, our old music teacher. He quit after he went on that TV show, American Idol, and became a famous rapper. "He's not a poet," Andrea complained. "Yo, Mr. Hind shouted. "Let's get down and get funky, 'cause I'm so hunky. Let's all do the monkey." Mr. Hind did a monkey break dance move, spinning on his head. Then he got up and started rapping again. "It's good to be back in the elementary shack. This school is whack, like water off a duck's back. Quack, 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 quack." Everybody went crazy. Mr. Hyde started hitting Mr. Klutz's bald head like a bongo drum while he sang a rap version of Green Eggs and Ham. Mr. Hind is out of his mind. Miss Coco started dancing around like a nutcase. All the kids got up and started dancing too, except for me. I was afraid all that money was going to fall out of my pockets. It was great to see Mr. Hind again. After the assembly, he gave us autographs and copies of his new CD. Then we had to go back to class. It was almost time for the 3 o'clock bell to ring. Everybody was tired from all that dancing. Ryan and Michael looked like they were about to faint. "What's the matter, boys?" asked Miss Daisy. "You don't look very well." "I'm hungry," Michael said. "I'm starving," Ryan said. "Didn't you boys eat lunch?" asked Miss Daisy. "We didn't have any money," said Neil the Nude Kid. "Why not?" asked Miss Daisy. Michael looked at me. Ryan looked at me. Neil the Nude Kid looked at me. All the boys were looking at me. That's when the most horrible thing in the history of the world happened. I guess all those coins were too heavy for my pockets or something. They must have ripped a hole in them because at that very minute, coins started sliding down my pants. They spilled at the bottom and clattered all over the floor. I thought I was gonna die. I knew it, Andrea shouted. Arlo has been selling poems and taking the boys' lunch money. Is that true, AJ? Asked Miss Daisy. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. I had to think fast. So I did the only thing I could do. I ran out of there. And I'm not going back. Ever. I'm going to go to Antarctica and live with the penguins. Maybe I'll finally get kicked out of the gifted and talented program. Maybe I'll get kicked out of school forever. Maybe next year we'll have National Skateboarding Month. Maybe Mr. Hind will come back to school and teach music again. Maybe Andrea will stop being so annoying. Maybe Miss Coco will stop thinking that I'm a poetry genius. Maybe I'll be able to convince her that I'm just a regular kid who threw some flashcards up in the air. But it won't be easy.